this lesson, we're going to begin adding our animations to Mechanim. Alright, so let's go ahead and get started. Looking at our character, let's go ahead and select the Ghost Knight rig there, and let's go to our Anim Clips folder, Ghost Knight, and I'm going to open up the Ghost Knight Animator Controller. I've gone ahead and cleared it out of the previous animations that we had in there because we're just going to start out with the animations that are in our folders here. So now what we want to do is we want to go ahead and bring in our idle animations. So I'm going to be using the Knight Idle Front and the Knight Idle Back. Now we want to think about how we want this to all blend together and how we are going to create the movement of our character. What are the states he's going to be in? Well, the character is going to be grounded, and so he should be able to sit and idle if we're not pressing anything, and he should be able to run at full speed whenever we press the D key and we hold it down. And we want that to blend together very nicely. And we could go ahead and add both of these together, and we could create transitions between them, but I find that using a blend shape can sometimes give us a better result. So, or not a blend shape, but a blend tree, excuse me. So I'm going to go ahead and create a new state, and I'm going to create it from a new blend tree. Let's go ahead and leave this set to default here, but let's give it a new name, and I'm going to call this grounded underscore F for forward. Double click on that, and you'll see that we have a blend tree. Now, your blend trees need to have motions added to them. And we also need to think about what kind of blend we're going to be using. Now for our character, it's going to be a 2D side scroller. And so using a 1D blend type is perfectly fine. So let's go ahead and add 2 new motion fields. Now the motion fields that we're going to be using is going to keep our character in this idle position. So he's going to go from the idle position to the running state, okay, running forward. So let's go into our Anim Clips folder under Ghost Knight, and let's bring in our idle, and we're going to do the idle front, and I'm going to left click and drag that into the top motion field here. All right, now let's go ahead and go to the run here, and I'm going to take the run forward animation clip, and I'm going to drag that into the second motion field. So now we're going to be blending between these two. Now, how are we going to be blending between these two? What parameter should we use to make them blend? So you can see here that we have a parameter and it's blank. And we need to fill that with a parameter. And here you can see that we have the option to add parameters. So let's go ahead and do that now. Let's add a new parameter, and it's going to be a float parameter. So this float parameter, okay, is going to be called speed. Go ahead and enter that, and you'll see that that automatically adds to our blend tree. Now you need to make sure that you have that blend tree selected and then add the parameter. Alright, so now that that has happened, what is this supposed to do? How do we affect the speed parameter? Well, we can do that by using our script. So let's go ahead and see how this works. Let's go into our character movement script. Okay. And inside of our character movement script, the first thing we need to do is access the animator that is on our character game object. So down below our rigid body clone variable, we're going to say private and animator, and we're going to give it a name called anim. All right. In our awake function, we're going to go ahead and initialize that anim variable. So we're going to say anim equals get component in children. Now you might be asking, why are we using get component in children? Remember that the character movement script is on the game character, on the main game character object. So you can see it right here, character movement. But the animator is on the Ghost Knight rig, which is a child of character. So we're going to be using get component in children. What component are we looking for? Animator. Open close parentheses, end with a semicolon. So now that we have that variable set, we can now access that variable from other functions. So in our fixed update function, I want to access a variable which is move direction, and we're going to tie that to the speed that's in our animation in Mechanim. So what is move direction? Let's go ahead and refresh. Well, move direction is actually the input value that we get here. So let me go ahead and find that. It's in our update function. So move direction equals input.getAxis horizontal. So if I press the D key and I hold it down, it's going to give me a positive 1 value. If I release that and am not pressing any other keys, it's going to go back down to 0. Now if I press the A key, it's going to go to the left, and it's also going to give me a value of -1. And if I release that, it's going to go back to 0. Okay, so let's use the move direction to set our speed inside of our mechanism. So in the fixed update function right here underneath the rigid body, I'm going to say anim.set. Now what kind of parameter did we have float set to? Well, it was a float, or not what float was set to, but what was speed set to, and it's a float. Open parentheses, and then we're going to need to give it its ID. So what was the parameter name? Speed. Close quotations, and then comma, and then we need to give it the value that we're going to be passing in to the speed parameter. Well, we want to pass in the move direction, which is the input that the player is going to give us. Okay. Now, that is set to move direction. Okay, perfect. Now, move direction, remember, it's going to give us a value from 0, which is we're not pressing anything. And if I press the D key, it's going to give me a positive value. If I press the A key, it's going to give me a -1 value. Let's take a look at mechanism really quickly, and let's see how this is working. So our blend tree is going from 0 to 1. Okay, you can see that value there. And that's perfectly fine. I'm okay with that. However, whenever I create the run back, that's going to give me a negative value, and I don't want that. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to say move direction is going to be an absolute value. So even if it's a negative number, let's pass it in as a positive number. So we're going to say mathf dot abs for absolute, and then whatever is going to be passed in, so our move direction. Let's make sure we add an extra parentheses at the end of that for our set float function. Now let's hit Control S to save that. Let's go into Unity and see what happens. So let's go ahead and hit play. You'll see that we're idling, and if I go ahead and hit the D key, you'll see that he's running forward. Now if I press the A key, he's going to run forward as well, but it's not giving us the run back animation. So in the next lesson, we're going to set up that run back, and then we'll